From Rule 62 Studios in Bossier City, Louisiana, this is The Grouch and the Brainstorm. Welcome back. Jill,
Hey,
do you have any idea what episode this is?
61?
One.
Oh, I mean, that was just a guess.
Season 2, episode 13.
Okay, nice.
And Matt's not here today.
Yeah.
The first episode with the absence of Matt.
Does that mean I took his
Really?
place?
That means you took his place.
I'm Terry.
Well, I was going to introduce him, but Terry introduced himself. So, and Terry's a friend of the show. He's been on the show before. I also have Travis here today.
Good morning.
So it takes 2 seats to fill Matt's seat.
It's a lot.
No, I'm just kidding. So whenever Matt told me he wasn't going to be here, me and Jill had to brainstorm real quick, and so we both picked one. So we got 2.
Woohoo!
Yeah. So Matt is he's off fishing in Arkansas.
Saw that.
So hope he's having fun. I can imagine, he's grueling over not being able to be here.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Why you striper fishes in Arkansas.
Is that what he's fishing for, striper?
Yes, and I actually guessed.
Wasn't that a band in the 80s?
That's what I was about to say.
Yes.
That's a band. He's fishing for 80s bands.
Hope you don't see a white snake out there. White snake. Remember those?
Get it?
Still
White
alive?
snake?
Yeah. Tawny Katane back in the
Oh, God.
pre-death days. She passed away from something about a year ago.
Oh, damn.
Yeah, we're all getting just a tad bit older.
Yeah.
Well, I just texted Matt a picture from my angle of where he normally sits.
Well, hopefully he can post them. He
Okay.
normally posts them. So without Matt here, we are going to lean back on a topic that I talked about a couple episodes ago, and actually we're going to hit 3 topics today. Okay, so that's 15 minutes apiece
Okay.
if you do math the way I do. but,
Well,
But anyway, we're gonna open it up talking about trust. But before I get to the trust topic, Jill, how's it been going around here? I see the pigs are getting really big. Are you sure they're miniature pigs?
Yes, they're micro minis and potbellies.
Micro.
They're precious. I love
They're
that
cute.
bud.
They're probably about 100 pounds a
Okay,
piece.
that's bullshit.
I have pictures of them.
I don't even think they're 20 pounds.
how big does a micro pig get?
I don't know, around 70, 60, 50.
That's not very small.
Not very micro. I would be
Okay,
thinking like
no,
size of a cat.
So, to be considered a micro pig, you can be anywhere under the weight of 200 pounds.
Wow.
No shit.
That
I'm
sounds
micro
like
then.
Think about the other
sounds like
pigs.
some of the human things we've got going.
Think about the other pigs out. I mean, there's 600-pound pigs out there,
Mm.
and I just don't foresee them growing much bigger.
And the chickens, you still got the chickens?
I got the chickens.
Okay.
It's nice. I'm having a snake infestation. Not a fan.
I had
Yeah.
to kill a snake yesterday. Tell us about that. What's that like?
Did you use your nunchucks?
Yeah.
I get my dad to help me out
Yeah.
with that.
That's smart.
But yeah. good
Your,
times.
your
The
go-to
snake
is
I saw was from the Amazon. I saw it on National Geographic. It was one of the most deadly. It was in Bossier City.
Did they really had one out here?
Well, it's what I looked. I think I saw on National
It's
Geographic.
not released yet.
It was something about black, white, and red, but I don't remember the order. And red is dead. And
Oh man, I
don't know.
I don't really do snakes very well.
No, I don't either.
I don't
can't
either.
stand them, and I got a bunch of sulfur to put out around my chicken coop because
does that help?
I heard it's a deterrent of sorts.
Like mothballs.
Yes.
Yeah, as long as you pick him up by his wings. It's my dad's old joke.
Snakes
Wait,
have
wait,
Talk-
wait, what?
Talk about mothballs. He always says, "Make sure you pick him up by his wings." He just carried on through the years. It's like it's one of those things that stick in your head.
Right.
Like keep coming back, and then the
Yep.
next thing in your head goes, "Works if you work it."
Yeah.
Yeah.
One of them things. So, Terry, how you been, man?
I've been good. I've been overthinking a lot.
Well,
Ooh.
that happens.
That's-
Yeah, I'm really trying to stay where my feet are, as they say, in the present.
Oh, I like it.
But I have to, like, within a minute, about every 10 seconds, I have to remind myself.
Wow.
So that's hard because
Oh.
I think about the future,
Ooh, future trip. Okay.
a future trip.
They call that future trip. Travis, how about you, bud?
I'm doing great.
Doing great, huh?
Travis has a Jeep that he loves.
Oh yeah.
I noticed that. I've seen it one time before, and I meant to ask you last time I seen you if you still had it.
Yep. That's the
So-
great money pit.
Well, yeah. I mean, that's something that you could spend your time with. I spend my time in the garage working on something all the time. That's why everywhere I move, I like to have a garage. Just for some reason, I don't really mess with it until it gets to where like 100, 110 degrees outside, and
That's
and then I
Perfect timing.
and then I go out there and start playing around. So I recently bought a motorcycle. I traded in my Can-Am, or I sold it when I left here, and I got over there and I bought a motorcycle. And a Harley, a Sportster, not a huge bike. It's kind of big, but
1200,
1250,
1250.
Sportster S, and I just put parts on it. I buy different aftermarket parts and I put them on myself. Like, so my next project is going to be putting a custom exhaust on it, and then I'm going to learn how to ride it. Yeah, I'm gonna learn how to ride it, and
Put the
after
cart before the horse. Huh?
and after I learn how to ride it, I'll probably be tired of it and get rid of it and move on to the next thing. So.
Oh,
And actually, the story of that is real quick. I'll tell you before we get launched off here. I bought a bike. I went down there, a simple bike, and I had it for about 2 weeks at the Harley place, and they wanted to inspect it, so I had to bring it back up there, I guess, to get my plates and inspect it, and I ended up leaving there with a brand new bike. That
I hate it when that happens.
yeah, it's never really happened to me, but it did. And I'm still trying to figure. I'll be damned if I'm getting this one inspected. I don't know what I'd leave with. But no, the one that I originally bought didn't have a whole lot of power. It didn't feel like it did anyway for the amount of sound it made. Mm-hmm. But this new one doesn't make a whole lot of sound, but has a lot of power.
Okay.
So anyway, that's enough about what's going on with me. So diving off into our first topic, the topic of, we're going to talk about trust. We're going to talk about Terry's topic of overthinking, and we're going to talk about forgiveness. Mm-hmm. And I think they all kind of tie together. They really do. First off, overthinking. I don't know if anybody in this room does, but when I got into when I first got to AA, I really was an overthinker.
Yeah.
And I've been around. Next month I'll have 13 years if I make it. God willing, I'll make it. But when I woke up this morning, I was an overthinker. So yeah. So
Yeah.
not a whole lot changed. Yeah. So
So what have you done?
overthought, Jill. That's what an overthinker does.
Yeah.
No.
Well, I thought about it, and I think what I should do. Well, actually, I don't think an overthinking mind can fix an overthinking mind.
There is a solution.
There is. There is.
Yeah, you pick up the phone and call an underthinker. Do
That's
y'all know,
actually a good one.
do y'all know any
Phone a friend.
underthinkers? Phone a friend, of course.
Yeah.
So one of our listeners asked us we broke down how it works in the last 2 episodes, right? And we broke it down just with our experience. We didn't break it down by line or anything, but they asked us to talk about trust. So we're gonna dive off into that for a second, and then we're gonna go to forgiveness. Then we're gonna circle back around to overthinking. Okay. And anytime you want to throw something in about overthinking, because that seems to come up a lot, especially with me, man. I can have a whole scenario figured out in about 30 minutes, how it's going to end, and most of it still hasn't ended, right? But on the topic of trust, so in my experience, I sitting in rooms, I've heard a lot of females say, I don't trust women, or when I got here, I didn't trust women. I've never heard a guy really say I didn't trust men. Maybe a couple, but nothing. There wasn't a trend there, right? Mm-hmm. And I'm just going by trends. I'm not giving an opinion here. And then later on, as recovery starts, you start to see the females start to trust other women in the program anyway, and I don't know how they interact outside of the program because I don't really hang around with them too much, but that the level of trust changes as they go on. So the way I see it, though, I've also seen a lot of people use trust as a crutch And I didn't trust. The reason I went back out, and if I think about that from a overthinking point of view, the reason I went back out and destroyed my life some more was because of you.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
I didn't trust you. And the very first thing in that line is I. You chose to do something because you didn't trust another human. Okay? And I know there are people out there that say never trust anybody, right? And the truth is we never know what someone's thinking, right? I've had people that talk to them on a Saturday and on a Tuesday committed suicide.
Sure.
And never knew it was coming, didn't have a clue. So you never know what anybody's thinking. Does that mean I wouldn't trust them? No. Something happened, they came back, I'd still trust them because, trust is a matter of just how much I'm going to give you, right?
Or just willing to let someone in, breaking through that wall, that barrier of.
You got to have some trust.
Yeah, and I agree, and that's huge. And that's like when I think about like step 2. That's where it I think rings true. Like you've got to learn how to trust your higher power. But I mean, first of all, yeah, I think that's hard for a lot of addicts, or alcoholics or anybody like us to just all of a sudden trust people. A lot of us come from just some pretty shady backgrounds and been around a lot of shady people and just don't trust a whole lot of people. And I was one of them. I didn't want to let anybody in. First of all, I didn't know you, so that's it. I didn't talk to people. I was really, they were like, I learned to trust some women, but I just was like, And it's something that took me like a couple of years to realize it. Like, okay, so I've gotten sober, and I'm starting to trust this process. And once I started to see that, I started to also, trust the people, but still like wary. And I still can be like that sometimes because, let's be real. Just because people are sober doesn't mean you can trust them. And that sounds horrible, but that's just the reality of things. I've let people in my life since I've been sober that have hurt me, and but majority of people haven't. And I know one thing, I didn't want to be friends with women because I never was, like pretty much every other woman in recovery.
Yep.
But, I took down that barrier, worked through whatever issues that I had, and I was able to let women into my life. And I have found some of the greatest, the greatest friends I've ever had in my life. And they're all positive, and they're just quite amazing. And learning to trust people has really, really changed my life, because I was able to let all these beautiful people into my life. Seriously, back then, people were, when I think about all the stealing, the lying, the manipulating, why should I trust someone?
Sure. Well, and I think a lot of us come in here with that ego, right? We say we are egomaniacs with an inferiority complex. So we are a grizzly bear on the outside, but we're a teddy bear on the inside. And then page 62, selfishness, self-centeredness, that we think is the root of all of our troubles. So for me, my life was I only trusted myself, but I also didn't trust myself because I knew it does that make any sense? Yeah. So my answer was going to be right, even if it was wrong. My wife was telling me the other day, and I've been sober a little over 5 years, that I have a pattern in my life that even if she or anyone says this flame is hot, it doesn't matter. You're still going to have to go touch the flame yourself and experience it myself. But because we're selfish, we tend not to trust others, right? But then the program in recovery teaches the honesty part, open-mindedness and willingness. And I think the honesty part is where we start to trust others. And you're right with step 2, came to believe. So then you're having faith in something or someone as opposed to being fearful of it.
Yeah.
Maybe.
And trust is the opposite of fear. And I think for a lot of us that come into the program, we're skeptics, and we need proof. We need proof.
Yeah. I don't know. I guess I don't want to come off as being. How bad do you want to be sober? I mean, just really, how bad? I mean, you just gonna keep going out and destroying yourself over and over and over again because of something like trust, or are you just gonna go in and just say, "Shit, I got to figure out something, or I'm gonna die."
Right.
I mean, just how bad do you want to be sober?
In the beginning, it could be really a leap of faith, because trust is a gift from me to the other person. You can't earn my trust. You can show me you're trustworthy, but I can still not trust you. That's my decision. And if I step out on that leap of faith to trust another person, I open up myself to the possibilities of having that relationship.
Being vulnerable.
Exactly.
And I think that's like a lot of addicts and alcoholics. We were like, nope, because that's not what, that's
Well,
not cool on the streets.
yeah. On the flip side of what I just said, if I think about it though, I start trusting somebody and then they hurt me, and then that's double. I now want to go back out. The only way I know how to stay. So I'm gonna tell you this. I was new to AA, and there was a guy in there, and I'm not gonna say his name. He still comes around every so often, but he had 7 years, and I would sit out on the bench with him, right, and just shoot the stuff with him, and we'd talk, and he'd tell me, but he's an older man, and then one day I found out he went back out and got drunk. And I mean, it just like I had spilled my gut. You would think he was a sinner. Do you see where I'm coming from, though? Like,
How dare you?
He broke the carnal rule. And, it took another person to say, dude, we're alcoholics. That's, you're surprised that an alcoholic drank, because it was really my first experience with someone going out. I had less than a year. He had 7. That's a long time.
Yeah, I can remember the first guy that relapsed after I got sober that I'd gotten close to. And I was like, we could do that? We don't all just get sober and stay sober the rest of our lives. It just never occurred to me that once you found the rooms of Alcoholics Anonymous, that some of us choose to go back and drink again.
Yeah. And unfortunately, that does happen.
Yeah.
And
Don't you think that, my first sponsor of the program taught me gratitude high, expectations low. And so we talk about expectations a lot, but don't you think that keeping our expectations low of others helps with the trust factor?
Yeah, if you can do that.
If we can do it, that's the key.
I mean, you got to think about it, man. My first sponsor, I had no choice but to have high expectations. I'm thinking this guy's going to cure me, and then he goes and dies on me, So, keep him. But I would hear a lot of the stuff I heard in meetings as a newcomer, though, just didn't apply to me. You know what I mean? It just
Unique.
Yeah. The only thing that really applied to me was I drank a lot and I was a newcomer.
Yeah.
You don't start realizing some of these spiritual maladies, as we call them. I didn't anyway, until probably well after the first year of recovery. I honestly didn't see myself in a lot of those. I didn't even see myself in a lot of the stories in your big book.
Well, let's think about this. If you're a newcomer and you're trying to get sober and your struggle is trust, the first thing we're going to do is look at where's your faith lie, right?
Right.
Faith lies in the higher power, not in someone else or an institution or themselves. And if we're going to talk about trust, you've got to be open with that person and with yourself to be willing to at least trust something other than what has happened in the past. Otherwise, it's insanity. Because what we keep doing, it keeps leading to the same result. So we have to trust that something else is going to work. And I trust that millions of people have gotten sober through recovery programs. And I trust that when my sponsor said, hey, every day I want you to do these 6 things, if I do those 6 things, they are keeping me sober. If I falter from that and, go a different direction, don't do those things, then I'm going to lose trust. But that trust is in the process and trust in a higher power. Like you got to start somewhere. What's your option? If you're a newcomer and you're just thinking about recovery and you're having problems with trust, if you don't try, you'll never know. And you will be burned by people because we are all defective.
Yeah, I believe in the beginning, my trust was very low. It just was like, okay, well, I didn't trust anything. The steps, the AA, the people, and it's just like that little, tinge of willingness and like possibilities and just maybe, and it's just something that I built on from there.
Didn't you guys teach me too early on not to use absolutes? So like when you said, Mike, I'm never going to trust that person again. We can't use those words, right?
Right. Not supposed to.
Not supposed to.
Yeah, they're cognitive distortions, and it's the all or nothing thinking, the black and white that gets us into a lot of trouble.
Which goes
Yes.
right back to our addiction.
It's that.
Yep. We have a problem.
Cognitive
staying with
distortions.
balance and staying in the gray.
Which is why we need other people in our lives to filter it out, because our best thinking got us here.
That's right.
And our best thinking is trying to get us out by telling us not to trust.
Absolutely. The population that I work with the men's incarcerated, there's not a whole lot of trust. And, we have something similar to the 12 steps, but not really. I mean, it's nothing like 12 steps, but it's a step program called MRT, and, trust is one of the, I think, step 2. So first one is honesty. And then moves on to trust, and it's really difficult for a lot of them to do that because they have to do like a presentation on that. And I think with any newcomer or someone that's just newly exposed to this concept, it's questionable because they get up there and they're like, "We trust you, Miss Lampshire," and like, that's cool, that's cool.
To start.
Yeah.
We get to a point where we, if we stay around long enough, that we understand that we have to step out and trust somebody because we can't fix ourselves,
Yeah.
And we understand that we got to start somewhere, and mustard seed of trust with one person is where it starts.
And that's what I see with them. And they start learning to, what's cool is a group setting. And then they'd say the power's in the group. And so they come to the same room with all the same people, and then they start to trust them. And they build a camaraderie, and, I just challenge them to keep on going from there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean that's I like what Curtis. Why I called you Curtis, Travis. I like what Travis said though. You trust one person, just trust one person. I sure as heck didn't trust that guy that sat down next to me, And when I was newcomer, now I'm going all by newcomer, right? But there was a couple people. They just come sit right down next to you, just singing the praises of AA. I didn't trust that guy. I can't speak for anybody, but I didn't trust him. For some reason I trusted Dale, and I trusted John Jay, when they introduced me to, and then I think the third person I actually trusted in the rooms was Richard C, but it built on that, and then, and then that guy went back out, and I kind of just kept to myself for a little while, Oh, Randy T, I forgot about Randy T. He's probably right there up at the top, but. Not that any of these people are actually trustworthy. I'm just saying these are the people I trusted in the beginning. So,
right.
To each his own.
Again, that's your choice, your decision to put the trust in somebody. Whether that person turns out to be trustworthy or not is on them.
Exactly.
And did I Google the word trust? I was going to Google that word right quick, just so that we see what the definition of trust definition. Let's see. It says in the Google, a firm belief in the reliability, truth, ability, or strength of someone or something. Relations have to be built on trust.
Agree.
Relations have to be built on trust.
Agree.
I like that because I don't know about anybody else, but my recovery is more than just one fold, right? It's trusting my higher power, which I trusted kind of to begin with. I just didn't quite sure how to do that thing. But then trusting others because I can't do it by myself, and I had to have other people. I had to, regardless of whether they were going to eventually. Have you ever heard that person? And I hope I don't lose any listeners over what I'm about to say. I really don't. But have you ever heard that person that sat in a meeting and said, "Everyone has let me down.
Yep.
Oh, for sure.
Everyone in my life has let me down." And then they go into a story about how everyone in their life has let them down. Go back to Terry about the expectations. So I don't think everyone in my life had basically given up on me, You know, I wouldn't say, you know, if that's a letdown, shame on me. Because
Right.
everything that happened to me was strictly because of my actions, right? I mean, so I hear a lot of stuff that we're just really, you know, our fifth step is just steadily just, you know, you see it start to grow in the beginning, you know, and hopefully it gets to the point where you get to share it, you know, but go ahead, Travis.
But I think it goes back to what Jill was talking about, the all or nothing aspect. You know, we have these magnificent magnifying minds that, you know, a couple people, one person, you know, whatever, let us down or disappointed us. Therefore, everybody's going to do it.
Yeah, the overgeneralization.
Yeah, yeah. What's that cognitive thing you were talking about earlier, Jill?
Cognitive distortion, a false and irrational thought or belief.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah, I think that.
I can overthink on that.
Yeah, I can
I
definitely.
can overthink on that.
I can definitely.
Sure.
I can
say that-
definitely overthink on that.
Say that truth definition again.
The
It was
what?
the
Trust definition.
trust,
Firm belief in the
realization.
reliability.
Reliability.
Firm belief in the reliability, ability, or strength of someone or something.
So the reliability word, I mean, the thing is, when I got into this program, I was not being reliable to myself, right? And my choices dictate where I go in that direction in life and who I encounter. So, and I'm a defective person. Everyone else is also defective. They may not be honest about it. So we are all defective. So we're expecting trust out of two defective beings, right?
I think it's also like kind of that love thing. If you don't love yourself,
Yeah.
you can't love someone else. And it's kind of like if you don't trust yourself.
Can't trust someone else.
Yes.
Yeah.
I like that. Yeah, I can see that. So let's just say you do build trust, right? In someone or something or whatever. And that someone or that something lets you down. What do you do?
It is what it is. Next.
Well, I think that's where I think that's where Travis's topic of forgiveness
Forgiveness.
comes in.
Yeah.
I think that again, you know, who is forgiveness for, right? You like that segue, Jill?
Yeah.
Is it for them or for you?
Who is forgiveness really for?
Right.
You know, because can you think about it like this, man? If someone walks up to me in a grocery store, let's just say by some chance I'm actually grocery shopping, and I'm in the produce department, and some guy walks up I hadn't seen in 10 years, and he's like, Mike, man, it's been a long time. I hadn't seen you in 10 years. I'm going to the program of AA, and I want you to know I forgive you. I'm like, forgive me for what, fool?
Yeah.
What I do? It was you. You know, it was you. You're forgiving me?
Yeah.
Who the hell do you think you are? You know
Right.
where I'm going with that, right? So this random act of forgiveness just doesn't cut it with me. Forgiving is for me.
Exactly.
It is anyway for me to let go, and if I can, you know, and I hear people on like talk. I listen to a lot of podcasts, right? And I travel a lot, so when I travel, that's what I listen to. All the way over here, I was listening to podcasts. All the way back, and no, not recovery. I listen to true crime podcasts, right?
Yeah.
But I hear some of the hosts sometimes say that now, if that guy had done that to me, or that guy had done that to some family, I could never forgive him. Well, that means I get to carry that for the rest of my life.
Exactly.
Good things.
Well, I was taught that resentments are my greatest offender.
That's
right?
what it says in my big book.
What I've noticed, and especially the last few years, even in sobriety, I mean, it hasn't been the easiest ride some days, but I've noticed that the resentments I have against others eat up my time in my head, and they put me in a really bad place.
And they do. Resentments, well,
And it's
Currently don't have
often
any.
tied to not forgiving people.
Yeah, absolutely. What
And-
page is that on the big book? In the big book? The forgiveness prayer?
50, I'm not going to guess.
I used to know it.
Well, I mean, I'm not going to guess because I do know it, and I don't want to spoil it for everybody. I don't really know it. I'm kidding.
I was like, wait, what?
Well, yeah, it's a joke. It's a
does this
it's a
mean?
cognitive distortion of cognitiveness, whatever the heck that is.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't think forgiveness, like, I didn't know what to do with it. I didn't know, like, how to do that. So, you know, I think, like any other person coming in the rooms, I had a lot of them. And I didn't realize how much time they spent, I let them spend in my head overthinking these resentments over and over and over and over again. I mean, it was just ridiculous. You know, when I think about that, I was like, I wasted so much time on people that could give two shits about me.
That's right.
Yeah.
One of the hardest things I ever had to do was forgive somebody that was not remorseful and accept an apology that was never offered.
Ouch.
Yep.
I had one of my best friends, betrayed me, and I had a huge resentment to the point where it was getting to be a big issue in my life, and I realized, I had to forgive him for what he did. He was not remorseful, and at this point, he never apologized at this point, but I had to set myself free of that resentment, and that's when I realized, like Mike was talking about, forgiving somebody is not for you. It's for me, And before that, I always thought, I forgive you. You may now rise and go forth. I set you free.
I know. Do they even know I forgave them?
Right. I'm that important in your life that I forgive you. You're okay now that I forgive you. But when I went through that situation, when I forgave him, I set myself free of that resentment.
And that's a beautiful thing, to not have that bullshit just cluttering your brain. There's a lot of things that forgiveness is not, though. I mean, it's not forgetting. It's not saying that what you did was okay. But it's just like you said, I'm letting myself off the hook because I'm done. This is exhausting.
Forgiveness does not mean reconciliation either.
Exactly.
I've set myself free of that resentment, but that doesn't mean you get to be a part of my life anymore.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's pretty. I like that. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a big one.
Forgiveness. I guess we get off into some of these things I didn't even think about until step 4, and we start doing all these. Because who? I mean, I don't know about you guys. I can't say it. I've done a lot of step 4s with a lot of sponsees, and I've did my own step 4 a few times in my recovery, and parents take a beating.
Yeah,
They really do.
My poor mom and dad had apps. My parents don't even drink. Like, they did everything in their power to keep me away from alcohol the first 14 years of my life, even when, and I wasn't, my actual, what I could do. And I don't know about you guys and how you were raised, but, we just didn't have to come home until the sun was down.
That's
and
right.
We didn't have to tell anybody where we were. And, we didn't have cell phones or pagers, and nobody really cared if we ate dirt. And every once in a while, a kid got worms,
Yep.
I mean,
Sure.
Drink out of the garden hose.
Oh man, drink out of the same garden hose you spray your friend's hind end down after he used it in the yard. I mean, So, but I wasn't. But they did everything they could to keep me away from alcohol because they had seen the destruction that substance could do to not to that individual alone, but to the entire entity of the family. And I tell you what, I get into AA and we start talking about stuff like forgiveness, and I'm like, I could probably forgive my parents. Forgiveness. Like, what the hell did they do? They did everything.
They did the best they could.
They did the best they could, and to be honest with you, they were a lot younger than your average parents. So they didn't have some of the advantages some of the more mature parents had. But I had friends that had parents. When I was in high school, they had parents in their 50s and 60s.
Yep.
And I didn't. My parents were they were young. How about that? We'll just leave it at that and be respectful. But they were very young. But they still did everything they could to keep me away from alcohol. And I remember talking to Dale, and we were talking about, I believe it's in the 12 and 12 under step 4, where it talks about the benefits of forgiveness. Have y'all remember that?
Yep. We just went through it last month.
It talks about the benefits of forgiveness, and one of those benefits is you become one with AA. And I'm gonna pull it up, but I remember talking to him, and I remember thinking, man, when I get out of here today, I'm gonna go forgive my parents. Thank God I didn't. I didn't have the cojones to go forgive my parents, because they'd have looked at me like I was crazy.
Right.
What the hell's wrong with you, cat? But whenever I pull it up, I'll.
Yeah, I went through
share
that too
with you.
early on, and everyone kept saying they did the best they could, and they did. And I do the same darn things with my kids, and I'm doing the best I can.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, I can honestly say I didn't do the best I could with my and they will probably agree with me.
That's funny.
But
That moment.
at that moment, I guess my cognitive abilities were diminished, but diminished by selfishness, self-seeking, and self-centeredness.
Yeah.
So I really wasn't worried about them. And you know, I was also raised in the latter part of the generation where kids really didn't speak unless spoken to, kind of, you know.
Right.
Kids were silent.
Yep.
Didn't really have a voice. You know, I mean,
was
I
just
wish
different.
I could. Yeah, it was just different. I wish I could describe it. But, you know, me and my son hang out together. Me and my dad don't. And we never have, you know.
I feel like our age too is maybe more open in communication, right? Trying to talk to our kids about stuff. You know, if we're going to talk about forgiveness, one thing that I'm reminded, my sponsor taught me this, is that phrase, but for the grace of God, there go I. And so when I am struggling with something, because I have been forgiven tens of thousands of times over by family and friends, right? And then I see someone do something. It's either an action I've done, or maybe it's an action I've never done before. And I'm like, oh my gosh, let me judge that person. How dare they be homeless with a whiskey bottle, right? And then I think through my life, well, but for the grace of God, I was right there.
I think going through that 4-step and putting it on paper, because I can romanticize a resentment in my head, and it grows and grows. But once I take that out of my head and put it on paper, it becomes right size. And I see that, like the example we've been talking about with our parents, you know, they did the best they could. And some of the things that I'm resentful for, just not the case. You know,
Right.
it never
You look
happened.
apart and you're like, wow, that's stupid.
Yeah.
You said it. Look
I
at
did
our
this.
part. We got it. That's the key of the inventory. So what was our part in it?
Right.
Yeah,
Yep.
that never goes well.
Never good.
It was me all along.
Yeah. So
I think the thing about you know, forgiveness and working on doing that is a process. It doesn't happen overnight, and I suppose it has.
I hate it when
Some
people
people-
say that process. Time takes time.
Yeah, well, I mean, and there was a long time ago, you know, I had a horrible resentment. I mean, it went on for about 15 so years, and it was bad. It consumed me. Just absolutely consumed me. And in that bedroom, right there, one night I was screaming and I was crying because I was so pissed and enraged. And I remember like kind of falling to the floor and just saying, I can't do this anymore. And I didn't believe in anything back then. And I just screamed and I was like, take this away from me. And I didn't know what was going on that night. I just thought I was screaming and just being pissed. But I forgave someone and I let it go and I gave it to my higher power even though I didn't have one. And it's crazy. I mean, like I got sober, I was like, wow, that's what happened.
That's awesome.
And that's just, it's like, thanks God, you know, you were there for me when I didn't even, you know, believe that you were, but like, it's just a resentment that I haven't really had since that night.
So as you're saying that, what I'm picturing is you letting go of something. And one of my favorite quotes is, you know, we hold on, what is it, Gandhi or something? They say that the best thing to do is hold on tight, but I say letting go is better. Is it Gandhi? I don't even know.
I think that's
Yeah.
38 special.
That's 38 special. Yeah.
That was playing in my head.
Yeah.
Gandhi
White
38 special. You know, it's all the
Also at the
same.
time, let it go, let it go.
But I think a lot of it goes to that, right? I mean, that's step one, powerless, right? We talk about surrender, and to forgive, we have to let go whatever it is we're holding on to.
Yeah, and that's, I mean, for me back then, I didn't understand what surrender meant, and that's a huge thing that I learned because I didn't understand like how you could give something up that is not tangible to against something that isn't tangible. Like I understand like you can surrender and wave the white flag, but like, and I remember being stumped on this in recovery because I was like, huh?
Like, yeah, what do you give it to? Who do you give it to?
I was like, I don't know what you want me to give you.
Yeah.
Like,
No,
how do
I can
do
get that.
this?
I can remember feeling that same way. how do I give you something that I can't physically touch? And then you talk about God, and I'm like, okay, where is he? You know, I can't put it in his hands and give it away.
I'm telling you, my mind was blown, and I remember it was like a time, and this was like probably in the first month of, in treatment, just crying, because like, I don't know what you're talking about, like, this doesn't make any sense. Seems a little psychotic, but, I'll try it, and it worked. And it did, and it continues to work. And now it's to the point, like, I don't even let it happen to begin with, because I'm able to use empathy and all these other tools that I've learned to just be like, it is what it is, and there's nothing I can do to change other people's situations.
Yep.
But I'm not going to let that rule my life, and I just pray for them.
That's usually the answer when I call my sponsor. Did you pray for them?
Well, that's probably the answer when anybody calls anybody at this point. Just because there ain't a whole lot we can do. I mean, I don't know. I think, and I know I'm not unique in this, but letting go is probably one of the hardest things there is to do. I mean, just size of getting a lobotomy, or going back out, or having some form of what's it called, whenever amnesia. I used to kind of envy those folks that got amnesia. Because they don't know nothing. They don't feel nothing. They don't even know you. Like, they don't care.
I can relate to that. I mean, this is why we drink and do other things, so that we don't have to feel. We don't want to think about it anymore.
Self-induced amnesia.
Was that? Yeah.
I guess I kind of picture it.
Perfect.
Cognitive numbing.
I kind of picture it like my brain has boxes, but it's also spaghetti because I'm like kind of mixed in. But like, I wish I could just cut out that box of my brain.
Yeah, they call it compartmentalizing.
There you go.
Yeah. I mean, and to a degree, I can, but ever so often there's something that takes over every aspect of my life. And so even though I compartmentalize and I can do a podcast, or I can go to work, or I can go to an AA meeting, it's still there. It just doesn't go away. It doesn't stop.
So you're thinking it's an overthinking issue.
It is an overthinking.
See what I did there?
Found my replacement right here. Yeah. No, but it is. It absolutely is an overthinking issue. How many of y'all have ever got ready to go to bed? And what Jill's
Sorry, I'm already putting
Jill
that in.
already has her hand.
She's
ready to go to
She
bed,
got
too.
ready to go to bed.
well, in not drinking.
She knows this is about thinking,
You
so
look
she's
at-
going to put her hand.
You look at the clock and you go, I have an hour until I got to get up, and I have not been able to sleep a wink because this overwhelming thing that I have played out all the way to the bitter end. I'm going to the electric care because I threw a car battery in the apartment complex garbage can. That's where my, I mean, get it? I have a conscience. I shouldn't have done that. I didn't do it recently, by the way. If there's any, FDA agents or whoever watches that shit out there, I'm just saying. I've
That's EPA.
There you go. No, in Louisiana, it's the FDA. I have, but it has got to where, when I take it all the way through.
You take it all the way through, and you probably take it in different directions. Like, okay, what if this happens? Which way will it play out?
Oh,
Right.
the best case scenario is horrible.
Right,
Well, you
exactly.
rewind because you thought of something better to say or something to do, and then you've recreated a whole new. Oh wait, I may know something about overthinking.
So one of the things I love about being around people that are honest about being in recovery is that it seems to me that we all have this really bad. And this is one of those, it's part of that disease we talk about. It's like that gene, and it's like we all have that overthinking brain. We overanalyze everything. We over-catastrophize. Typically, what I've noticed in the people I work with, we always take it to the worst possible case scenario. We're getting on a plane, we're all going to die. Right, we don't think about
half of us ain't.
anything else.
No, I get it. Especially every bump in the road.
Yep.
So
Here we go.
Overthinking, we're not trusting because we're in fear.
100%.
Well, we're definitely not trusting our higher power.
Exactly.
Who
Which is step 2.
and we put him in charge. He has become our new employer. Mm-hmm. Right? Everything. So, yeah, I like that.
So we overthink. We don't have faith. when I start overthinking and overplaying things in my head, it makes me want to control the rest of my life, because what happens to me is I lose control in one area of my life, let's say business. So then I'll go tighten control on family, friends, and everything else. I don't know if that makes any sense, but
I get it.
So,
I get it.
so that's a control thing. And then because I'm a selfish, self-centered egomaniac, if I can't control it, then I immediately go into fear, which then turns into self-pity and woe is me.
Which stems
Pour
from
me,
fear.
pour me,
Yeah.
pour me a
God
drink.
bless.
I mean, I think that's the cycle.
Yeah. Yeah.
We also talk a lot about thoughts and recovery and how, what do they say? 90 whatever % of our thoughts, we can't, they'll never come true. And then the other 8% of our thoughts that do come true, you can't do anything about anyways.
You don't math well, do you?
No, I think it was 92, but where do these
I think
percentages come
we're up
from?
like 111%.
Are we? 100,
And
I think it
we,
was-
Terry, we get it. Your brain's bigger than everybody else's, but I mean,
Okay,
11% bigger.
if 92% won't come true, but 8% will,
It's the row roll.
That's
It's when it
100.
comes to fear is what
Like,
he's talking about.
it's Rowe's rule. I think somebody coined the phrase. It may have been Phil. I think he claims it anyway. What did she say, Travis? 90%.
90% of the things that I'm afraid of never happen, and the other 10% are not as bad as I make them out to be.
okay, see, I did 92 and 8.
Yeah. I was
Same
wondering
thing.
what happened to that other 2% in your head.
So anyway. But then I want to think about the 90% to see if we can.
Well,
Make
yeah,
it happen.
I got here because I had a drinking problem, and since I've been here, I have a thinking problem.
Yeah, that's
But I tell you what, it has gotten significantly better. When I think about my brain before I got sober, it was racing thoughts. It was so much fear. It was just like building up like all the time.
100%.
I mean, just all the time. And I know that when I got sober and, started working the steps and, doing the spiritual deal, it took a little while, but my brain actually like chilled. And I still have that same chill, and I still have the ability to go there, but it's exhausting for me. And what ends up happening is I get anxiety.
yeah.
Yep.
And I'm like, oh my gosh, what have I done here? Look what I've done. And it's over the stupidest shit.
Yep. When I was younger, I spent a lot of time regretting my past and living in shame and guilt. As I've gotten older, like when I got into my 30s, I spent less time in the past and more time thinking about the future. But rarely do I remember a day for 40 years of my life where I was always in the present, right? I mean, I have to force myself to get back to where my feet are.
And that's all we have is the present.
That's right.
I mean, like, the power of now, which the book is an amazing book.
I thought that was. I was like, man, that's a good title for a
That is
book.
Yeah.
It is a
Taken.
book, and we waste,
Where'd you hear that, Jim? Go ahead. I'm sorry.
well, we just waste so much time in the past and in the future that we don't enjoy the moment. And that's all we will ever have is the here and now.
Early sobriety, I was at my sponsor's house, and he was telling me similar, topic we were talking about. He's like, Travis, you can never get over there after a while. And he was pointing across the apartment. You cannot be over there after a while. So you cannot be over there after a while.
I don't understand what's that
Keep listening. I think I know where it's
Okay,
going.
sorry.
You can't be over there after a while. And he's pointing across the room, right? So I got up and I walked across the room, and I go, ha, I'm here now. He goes, exactly. You are always here now. You can never be over there after a while.
No matter where you go, there you are.
Exactly.
Jill, I've heard him say that like 100 times, and I still struggle in the beginning too.
Well, I mean, but when he gives the example, it makes perfect sense.
It does.
You're right.
You're always here now.
It's
And
kinda
that's
like-
also a perfect example of overthinking for us, because we all overthought it, trying to figure out instead of going, hang on.
It's true.
It's gotten better.
And the thinking that I would fall into is, I'll be okay when this happens.
Yeah.
Or I'll be okay when that happens. Or
Expectations.
yeah.
I don't know who taught me this. Might have been a therapist or maybe someone in recovery. But I'm a very visual person, and we talk about thoughts. In fact, they say the average person, I read this recently, has 33,000 to 63,000 or whatever thoughts per shut up per Per hour? Or is it per day? I don't know. It's a lot.
That's like-
You know,
It's
I
per
have
day.
I have to field the emails on everything you say. Right?
I know, exactly.
I'm just,
Yeah, I know. I just ruined it for
no,
you.
nobody emails.
It's like 30 to 33,000 thoughts per day. I think each of us have probably 4 times that per day,
for sure.
right? So then it's like thoughts are clouds. And that's what they taught me is to picture the thought of cloud. Here it comes. Here's the big bad thought. Do I want it to stay here or do I let it go? And that's what I tried to do because you guys have also taught me it's okay to have the thought. And sometimes I need to have that thought.
Yeah.
It's the overplaying it that gets me into trouble.
And that's that cloud, like metaphor, whatever the hell it is, is used in creative visualization with situations and thoughts like that. Just imagine that thought in that cloud, and it just poof, gone.
poof. Yeah. And on top of that, whenever we first get to AA, a lot of us have told a lot of lies. And we got to go back and try to rethink through all that stuff, right? That causes overthinking to begin
We
with.
lie to ourselves too.
And if you think about it, though, man, when I was a kid, right, I did not like my mom's reaction to the truth, so I learned how to lie.
Right.
I liked her reaction to a lie until she caught me, and then it was my dad's reaction that really got me. That kind of left me understanding the difference between not lying and lying. Mm-hmm. But like so you get older, you don't like your mom's reaction to your lie. So to the truth. So you tell her a lie, and then you get older and you get married, and then you don't like her reaction to the truth either. So you start lying to her, and ultimately, all of that leads to overthinking that is unnecessary. But by the time I get to AA, anyways, where I'm going, I have a lot of practice with overthinking. A lot of practice.
Very true.
And a lot of practice with saying, I don't give a shit. Right? I'm gonna drink all I want because it's the only thing I got. Right?
Yep.
And there you go. You got a real bad scenario with overthinking. And I don't know if overthinking is just limited to the alcoholic class. I'm sure there's a lot of people out there that do it. We all have that friend that don't drink, that something's wrong every day.
Sure.
By the way, just FYI, there's a couple of truths I've learned in life, right? Just me. Number one, it's not a mannequin, okay? If you're out hiking, it's not a mannequin.
Oh, okay.
Oh gosh.
If it's floating in the water, it's not a freaking mannequin, okay? I don't give a damn.
That's the first truth.
And that's
Wow.
one. It's never a mannequin. Put that thought out of your head.
How many times has that happened? That's his
crazy.
number one truth.
It happens all the time. People are walking down the trail and they thought they seen a mannequin. Who the hell throws their mannequin out there? I mean, really, think about it.
You haven't watched it.
Farmer's out walking his dog and he sees what he thinks is a mannequin.
Mannequin.
Like people just have okay.
JCPenney.
Where do y'all put your mannequins when you finish with them?
Exactly.
That's a different topic, Mike.
All right.
I mean,
Another podcast.
yeah, there's only a couple truths that I've learned in life.
I want to know more.
Yeah, I want to know the second one.
Well, I forgot it because the first one was so important.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah, that one's really important. It really is never a mannequin.
I think he's been overthinking this too.
No. What was if I could rewind and listen, I would remember exactly what it was. But it floats in the idea of overthinking, right? And it's never going to be exactly how I think it is, ever. It never has.
So true.
51 years old, it has never turned out exactly the way I thought it would.
Right, and I think that comes from assumptions. Assumptions are also a cognitive dissonance.
And expectations.
So,
All of that.
so it's never a mannequin, and it's never going to turn out exactly the way I thought it would.
I like those.
Yeah.
And that's just the truth.
Rules to live by,
And
guys.
I like it because I get to work with sponsees who get to, and especially in the early days, they get to tell me exactly how it's going to happen. Oh, I gotta wear.
Because we know everything.
I gotta wear an ankle bracelet for the next year, and that means I'm not gonna be able to go swimming. And you know, what if I can't swim? I'll lose my muscles in my legs. If I lose my muscle, before you know it, they're bedridden because of an ankle bracelet. You got a whole prison full of people with ankle bracelets, dude. You ain't, no.
Our story's always different. We're unique.
But it's never gonna turn out exactly the way I think it is. Now it's
Never has.
never as bad anyway. Never has,
Well, it comes back to are we following our will or God's will? And I think where our problem is, one of my friends says, our problem isn't our problem. He says, our problem is our problem with the problem. So, Jill, our problem isn't our problem. It's our problem with the problem with the problem. But does that make sense?
Yeah.
It's our issue with it, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
And so it goes back to expectations and perspectives, right?
Fear.
Assumptions. So I think one of the solutions to overthinking, just to kind of to cast a net on this one, is to live in the moment.
Yeah.
That's why one day at a time really helps, because I can barely live in the day. But if I can keep it in the present, be where my feet are, gratitude high, expectations low of myself and others, it's hard to overanalyze things.
For a lot of people, and a lot of people don't meditate in the like Buddha formality is meditation, man. It quiets your mind, and it's an art. It's a skill. It's something you have to practice, and something that I do every now and then. And I've always loved it. And I remember when my mother taught that to me when I was young, like being like, I can't quiet my mind. This is ridiculous. And through years of practice, I've learned to quiet my mind. And that's kind of cool when you feel like you can not necessarily control, but you can limit all the blah, blah, blah.
Squirrels.
All the background noise.
The static.
Yes, the static.
Yeah.
Trying. Like everybody's like, no, my brain will stop.
Kind of like Terry. This is like a lot of caffeine I've had since I woke up this morning. Like I'm gonna overthink it no matter what.
I'm on my bang and my coffee.
Definitely. And stimulants don't help.
No, they don't.
Man, so all good topics, all stuff that I wish I'd have heard whenever I first got to AA, and I, but the thing is, when I got to AA, I wished I had 5 years the day I got there, until I met Randy, which was about a month later, and then I wished I had 15 because he had 15, and you know what I'm saying? It's just like, no matter what, I was always overthinking. Even in recovery, I'm overthinking. I start on step 1. I wish I was on step 12. Get to step 12. Wish I had a sponsee. Wish I had, you know what I mean? Wish I had
the truth.
I mean, it's just no matter what, and it's not even me being an overachiever. It's just always overthinking. If when I get this, I'll be like this. And when I get this, I'll be like this.
Yep.
And, the truth is the only really thing is what you got in front of you is all you really have, and it's not a mannequin.
It's not a mannequin, ever.
Yeah, if I could get that out to all the
Rule number 1.
it's just never a mannequin. I do remember one time my son he had braces, and I guess they make like a plaster.
Oh, I have mine downstairs.
You know what I'm talking about? And what I wanted to do. Now this was a long time ago. It's like right when I first got sober. So he had to be about 13, and they made a plaster set of teeth or mouth. And I wanted to go out to Clyde Fant and like bury them up in the sand.
Oh, that's
to where it
smart.
was just like that, and then videotape people as they went by and seen them. But then I started thinking about the legal implications. If the cops arised, and I figured it's probably not worth it. So.
Sounds like that.
But yeah, and
Definitely
I think
sounds like a good idea. Worth entertaining.
luckily in that case I was overthinking, right?
Yep.
'Cause,
Luckily.
if I hadn't been overthinking, I probably would have done it, and then I might have got in trouble somehow.
What?
I don't know, inciting public something. I don't know. Like I had never done that before, All right, so we are up to 4,680 plays. We average 52 plays per episode, 3,072 Spotify impressions, and we have 123 And I don't think I have 123 followers. And I don't think I've said it lately, but we are followed in, let's see, United States, Ireland, United Kingdom, Taiwan, Denmark, Canada, Bulgaria, Lesotho, Australia, Saudi Arabia, the UAE, Colombia, the Netherlands, Mexico, Germany, and Kenya.
Once we get the North Pole, we're going to be good.
Ah,
Well, you know, people explode in other countries first before they normally do here.
I wonder why, because we're a country full of overthinkers.
Oh, wow.
I mean,
I was trying to picture other people in other countries exploding and why they do that there.
Well,
you
it's
don't.
kind of like vice versa. It's crazy how that, especially if you think about music.
True. Very true.
Yeah.
yeah, that K-pop was popular in Korea before it was here.
That's why it's called K-pop, not A-pop.
I don't even really know what K-pop is, man. I like
Korean pop.
I mean, I just found out. Like, no,
You want to call it A-pop? We could create our own.
no, we don't want to call it A-pop. no, we will start getting voicemails at that point. So, Travis, thanks for coming by.
Thanks for having me.
Terry, thanks for coming by. You guys,
Yes.
thanks for filling in for Matt. I know hopefully he'll listen to this episode on his way home from his struggles at the lake in
Poor guy.
Arkansas with I think he's with Roger.
Oh, that sounds
I think he's with one of my guys. You know, that's part. Here's something, and I'll say this, and we'll get off the air. But 2.5 years ago, I met Roger about 2 years ago. Roger had a year in December. I would have never thought that Matt would be off on a sober fishing trip with Roger in Arkansas, posting pictures of the fish they catch, and probably the thought of alcohol never even coming
Yep.
about.
That's a
I
miracle right
never,
there.
I know it was possible, but I never would. And here it is all this time later, and those two cats off doing it. So good for him, man. He got out there.
Absolutely.
Now it's a holiday weekend. I don't know how that lake going to look on a holiday weekend,
They
unless
both
you're
deserve it. I just want to know if Roger has his cool glasses on.
the round ones
The
or the
octagons?
octagon ones.
Yeah, those are
yeah,
cool.
yeah, those are cool. Does he still wear those?
Yeah.
We had a chat about those. Anyway, we have been at Rule 62 Studios here in Bossier City, Louisiana, and we are the Grouch and the Brainstorm.